A big thank you to Jero for sponsoring today's video on Patreon. Wan Shi Tong, Librarian, versus Xavier Sal, Abaddon, and Riku. Well, a lot of mana there. How much are we going to draw off our commander? Potentially a decent amount in the early game, so we can draw 3 off the Lorien Revealed as well. And we've got some Scry. Yeah, I'm going to keep it, but there's an argument to be made for us not doing. Missing out on a card draw with our commander already, with the Wooded Foothills being cracked. Drawing into a Fact or Fiction's nice. Rapid Hybridization can't be terrible either. I'll play Wan Shi Tong at flash speed, just in case someone is holding up some kind of removal. We can always respond to some kind of tutor. Young Pyromancer does not entail a search. Owaka from Final Fantasy X, so not going to see any searches this time round, but I'm sure the game is young yet, so there'll be plenty. Obviously going to put 0 into X. I'm not sure if to play this as an X spell, or if to just get it down and draw cards off the tutors. Hopefully we'll see which way we should do it in this game. I'm thinking we're going to draw more from fetches and that. Alright, Heuristic Study, that's not half bad. I was going to go for the Arcane Signet and hold up Rapid Hybridization, but throw out the Rivendell and Heuristic Study this turn. Better to get it out sooner than later, whilst our opponents have hardly any mana. Haven't seen any ramp yet, curiously. Swing into the left because we have Evasion and Vigilance, so we might as well. Don't know how big the commander's going to get, so commander damage could be relevant at some point. Heritage Reclamation destroys an enchantment, so immediately blowing up the Heuristic Study. Got some removal out of hand at least, even paid the tax, so all we've done is pay 3 to get rid of a removal spell. And 2-1 swings back at us as punishment for turning in towards him. Sorcerer class. When it enters, draw 2, discard 2. Discarded Power Balance and a Release the Ants. Another Commander Xavier Sal into play. Okay, and that should be a good one for later. Reigns of Power, especially if we continue to see all the tokens here. So let's throw down Nykthos before we see a wheel. Could hold on to Fact or Fiction. I think we don't really have that much that we're doing next turn either, so maybe I do just Fact or Fiction here. This is a theft deck, so we're looking for means of stealing our opponent's stuff. Stealing the Young Pyromancer wouldn't be the worst in this deck, actually. Yeah, let's pass then. Swing it down the middle this time. Skull Clamp on the elemental tokens is going to be nice. Draw 2 cards for 1 mana. Then Stormcatch Mentor, a 1-1 with haste and prowess. Going to discount the instants and sorceries. Level 2 on the class. Creatures you control have tap, add blue or red, but it can only be cast on instants or sorceries. And a Mind's Aglow. Each player may pay any amount of mana, and each player draws X. If anyone else wants to put mana into this, that's fine. Although, yeah, everyone's tapped out, so we're just going to draw cards here. I'll say no. If we hadn't drawn some half-decent cards, then I might have drawn into some more cards with that, but we're still at a reasonable amount each. Draw into a land for next turn. Want to try and hold on to these shuffle effects for as long as possible. Evolution Sage is Landfall and Proliferate. There's no plus counter stuff going on yet. Haven't drawn a single card from the commander yet. At the end step, let's go Fact or Fiction. And I'll allow the guy down the middle to separate all these. We've got a choice of Spark Double to clone something, probably our commander. Reality Shift, although we could clone something really good of our opponents as well. Reality Shift is Exile. Lunar Insight, I think we would draw a lot of cards with because we're stealing lots of different permanents, I imagine. Ether Snatch steals a spell, and Gilded Drake is going to swap itself with a creature. I think that's, well, the lower curve stuff is fine by me. Spark Double would be cool, it's a bit win more. Ether Snatch is a ways away. That's probably one of the best piles they could have given us, actually, so definitely go with that. Okay, a Thran Dynamo as well, so drop a land. If we went Thran Dynamo, we could then take that into the Arcane Signet and have 3 mana left. So I think that includes an untapped land, which means we can hold up the Rapid Hybridization. Yes, it does. So let's definitely get down Thran Dynamo and the Arcane Signet. And then we will go for the Gilded Drake and swap that with the Young Pyromancer, I think, because I don't want him making use of that Skull Clamp for much longer. And then I imagine we're going to be getting hit for 3 in the air for quite a while until we get more plus counters on this, or the player could just scoop. That's great. So, well, Gilded Drake, 2 mana, make a player scoop apparently. I think I've seen this guy do that before. I need to remember to block him now. His username rang a bell when he joined the game here. Let me swing it to the right over the top of this stuff. I'm assuming there's no reach. Ruby Medallion will discount red spells, so could still see the commander here for 4 mana. And there it is, so might have to eat a rapid hybridization. Oath of Liliana. And we can't make a creature, so we're going to lose out on our Wan Shi Tong here. I mean, it's not doing anything for us anyway. And we get hit for 3 by the commander. The Awaka is going to come in at us as well. I imagine both players are going to be looking at us because we're a theft deck and no one likes their stuff to be touched. I will leave the rapid hybridization alone for now. Okay, Otawara, I'm probably fine to get down as a land. Let's go for Lorien Revealed, draw 3 cards first. Alright, and a Solemn Simulacrum, so a land with Thought Vessel and Solemn is some nice ramp for the turn. Let's crack the Flooded Strand to get another snow-covered plains in case, or a snow-covered island even, in case we draw into the extra planar lens, which is going to give us double mana. And then Thought Vessel and cast Solemn after that. Hopefully we don't see a bunch of searching of the library during this turn cycle. Hopefully we start drawing into some more theft shenanigans soon. Lunar Insight would only draw us 2 cards at the moment. Abaddon, the Despoiler, back into play again, so if he's that eager, probably best to go rapid hybridization onto it before his next turn. He might have deflecting swat, so probably a good idea to do it before we've got a creature in play that we care about. Getting plenty of proliferate going with the Evolution Sage, but nothing to actually proliferate, unfortunately. And then Chasm Skulker, gonna get a lot of squid tokens into play if you can draw enough into it. And again, this comes in towards us, so do we just block for a card draw here? I think that's fine. And just another land for us. And a Spelljack. Counter a spell, exile the spell, and you can cast it without paying the mana cost. So how much mana do we have here? I think we're just holding up interaction and trying to get our commander back in, really. After we get the commander back, it's 7, 8 and 9 mana we have available, so we can do plenty here. In order for this to become relevant, our opponent has to deal damage to us, so we'll make him do that first before we go for any kind of removal onto it. Might even be able to make use of Reigns of Power here, because this is going to swing in towards us. We could steal his stuff and block with a bunch of it. He'd actually lose all of his creatures to an attack from Abaddon, so I think that's the loose plan here. Going straight through to combat, and swings into the right instead. So if he decides to allow damage through here, I'm just going to blow up his commander. Might be worried about some kind of bounce onto the top of his library or something. Doesn't look as though he's going to declare a blocker, so I'm going to hybridize his commander. And you have to have protection for the Abaddon, surely. He's passing priority, so trading that out successfully for a Frog Lizard. And his commander is now going to cost 9. Arcane Signet, not worth stealing. And we have to be careful what we try and steal anyway, because as soon as they scoop on us, they're going to take the spell with them and we won't get the effect. Although I suppose making our opponents rage quit counts as a victory. Drawing the first card into the Chasm Skulker. That is a Jace, Unraveller of Secrets. Is that going to be any good to steal? I mean, I don't want my opponents having it, do I? So I think we can go Spelljack onto that. Either that or we dump a bunch of mana into X on the Wan Shi Tong. Gives us a 5 CMC thing for more card draw into Lunar Insight. Yeah, let's just do it, it's fun. So that is now in exile, and we are able to play it next turn. And of course, swings in at us. He's going to turn most of his things in sideways, you would imagine. Just those 2, so 5 damage. Could have been worse. Are they holding up removal for our commander is the question. Let's tap out into the commander. We'll even be able to put some mana into X this time. Only 2 though. So we get to draw only 1 card. But gets a couple of plus counters on it, and again clearing another land off the top. And a mana drain for more mana. We're drawing into all the control pieces, not too much theft like I keep saying. Another island. The islands are relevant with Vidalcan Shackles as well, which is an artifact that can steal a creature. Let's play Jace for free. And then we can scry 1 and draw by ticking up. The emblem that we're not likely to get is -8. Whenever an opponent casts their first spell each turn, counter it. Alright, and a Treachery, I don't mind that, so keep that on top. And draw into it straight away. Do we want to steal his commander? Yeah, I think that's fine. That's the thing he's going to keep trying to swing in at us, and this is free anyhow. So steal the commander. It's only a matter of time before we get our opponents to scoop here, I imagine, because this is really annoying. And then Treachery, for some reason you get to untap the lands that you just used to cast it. So that was free. We now control a 3-drop as well, so we can draw even more into the Insight. Do we scry 2 first? I think we're actually fine with doing that. And we've got a decent amount of blue mana into the Nykthos now as well. Maybe have to clear some lands off the top here with Rivendell. Alright, that's nice. A Volition Reigns and Sink into Stupor I think we can give up on. Put that on the bottom. But Volition Reigns can stay on top. So then we can just go Lunar Insight. Don't see very much of this one, but I think it's decent as a 3-mana card draw spell. Okay, and Acquire. What can we steal? Or more importantly, do we want to look through an opponent's library? Not entirely against it. So add a bunch of blue. We add 7 blue. And cast an Acquire. Going to look at the Grixis player's deck. I always used to point out back in the day when I ran Bribery quite a lot that it's good that you can look through an opponent's library. And especially showing it to the viewers. If anyone's interested in the opponent's Abaddon deck, then we're going to be able to see it here, which you often can't. So that's the list. And an Ensnaring Bridge. That doesn't really affect the game at the moment. Brass's Tunnel Grinder. We could, filter some cards. Looking through all this stuff, I think that's the one I want to go for, actually. So Brass's Tunnel Grinder. And that's another 3-drop for us as well. Not that I think CMC is relevant anymore. And let's get rid of 3 lands here. Those go into the graveyard, and we draw into Stolen Identity. We haven't had the combat phase yet. Fierce Guardianship is really good as well. Bribery. Let's see. Do we just go Bribery? We're going to discard to hand size is the problem. I want to hold up Mana Drain to keep our board intact. Yeah, let's go Bribery. Try and get some blockers for this Jace. Need to try and spread the insults around, just in case a player scoops as well. Obviously they take the permanents with them, so we want to be stealing from everyone, not just from one player. And we get to look at both players' libraries this time. Prime Speaker's Agana can draw us some more cards. Kodama some land ramp for us with our commander. Yeah, we've got Proliferate stuff here, haven't we, with our commander? Flux Channeler might be worth it for that. Oh, I didn't spot the Spark Double actually. Let's go Spark Double. Could take a combo piece off our opponent with the Scurry Oak. Let's actually copy the Jace here. I know I said I was looking for blockers, but we can actually start ticking up 2 Planeswalkers now. And this came in with additional loyalty from the Spark Double, so it's up to 7 already. And Arcane Denial, put on top. Might use that instead of the Mana Drain. I'm thinking we're going to be countering this with Mana Drain next turn. Yeah, so the deck is going very well. Nice and annoying for our opponents. Swinging to the left against Abaddon. We don't have to discard to hand size either. I think I mentioned us having to do that before, but we've got Thought Vessel in play for a reason. So hold up mana and pass the turn. We did descend this turn, so we're on our way to flipping this around. It will become a land that taps for red. Whenever you cast a permanent with it, discover X, where X is the mana value. So using it for something like the Volition Reigns would be good. Using this as a mana dork. And this is an instant or sorcery, so a lot of red spells can't be countered, so we'll just have to see what he does here. Okay, that's a Warp World. Each player shuffles all the permanents. We just cannot allow that to resolve. Plus it's a lot of mana for us next turn, so can quite happily Mana Drain on that. You might be holding up counter magic to make it go through, but we've got an answer for that as well. So sorry opponent for being so annoying. Yep, Atabolt's Trickery. We will use up our Fierce Guardianship to protect our board. He's got 1 mana available, so he could always have another one. But that goes through, so the Mana Drain does as well. And our opponents seem to be being good sports about it. We may even have come up on top there because of all the permanents that we control. Another plus counter on the Chasm Skulker. He's going to have to be selective with which creatures he swings in with to which Planeswalkers though. And that is Nissa, Ascended Animist. Can destroy an enchantment or an artifact. It's going to distract us from swinging in over there as well, although I think that's got Volition Reigns written all over it. Minus is down on the Treachery to get his commander back, but it will go back to his side of the battlefield tapped. And even if he could untap it, it has Summoning Sickness because he didn't control it since the beginning of the turn. Then decides to draw a card with Oaka, which is another plus counter on the Skulker. And he hasn't made a land yet. Might be able to into the Evo Sage. Apparently he's not going to. Didn't swing in at all, so he's leaving the walkers alone. Makes a zombie because he had a Planeswalker enter. And now we get 7 mana from the Warp World, so see what we can do with that. First of all, Misty Rainforest into a Stolen Evolution Sage could be good. So we could actually do that with Stolen Identity, make a copy of the Evolution Sage. We could make 2 copies of them before we make landfall. So Stolen Identity onto the Sage makes us a token copy. And we of course have Flying and Vigilance on our commander, so that makes it a good Cypher target. So we can swing in and get that ability again. We've got 4 mana floating, so let's go for the Volition Reigns now and hope that our opponent doesn't scoop. So we're actually going to be able to get the emblem with Jace here. We'll let that 1 mana die, and then Wan Shi Tong flies over the tapped blocker to the left, and we want to deal damage to get the copy effect again. So when that hits, ability goes on the stack, and again I'm going to copy the Evo Sage. And with that we can go through to the second main, and let's play a Misty Rainforest. That is going to proliferate us twice per landfall, so Misty Rainforest proliferates, and then cracking for a basic proliferates twice as well. Can actually buff the Brass's Tunnel Grinder as well, which is really good. And again, so we're actually going to be able to keep the Planeswalkers that we ultimate here. Getting 2 of these emblems doesn't really matter because countering the first spell twice doesn't do anything. I'm going to minus it down now, just in case our opponent scoops and takes his clone effect with him. If this was just a token it wouldn't matter, but it is a clone. So now we have the emblem. Let's plus on the Nissa, because we're not really bothered about the overrun effect quite yet. And that is a 7/7. Plus on the Jace as well. We'll just continue to use this as a card draw engine. Yeah, Fairy Mastermind is nice card draw, so we'll keep that on top and play the Fairy Mastermind, I think. So we're finally starting to get creatures on the board after treading water for quite a while. Did we descend this turn? I don't think we did. I think Cracking Misty Rainforest descends, doesn't it? I'm just trying to think of this. This needs to see descend, not just the counters, in order to flip round. So get an island, proliferate twice again. And with that, I think we're done annoying our opponents for now. Right up until the point where I counter something of theirs again. So there we go, Brass's Tunnel Grinder triggering at the end step. And we do get the land, so we've got something decent with the Diluvian Primordial to discover with. Although we don't have any really good targets for the Primordial, unfortunately. Now every time a player wants to do something for the rest of the game, they have to sacrifice a spell first. Mox Tantalite, that still has 2 counters on it. A Backlash is going to get countered, so it doesn't really matter what it does, but deals damage equal to its power to the controller, and we can counter anything that's of an issue to us anyway. He's still got 3 cards in hand. Lands a Duskmantle Seer. Not really worried about that, although it is a flying blocker. Now the question is, do we tap a bunch of mana into Nykthos and pump it into this? This is each player draws a card is the problem. We'll see by the end of the Planeswalker's turn what we feel like doing. A Vamp Tutor is something that we can go for with Diluvian Primordial, although it is going to get countered, and he's doing it during the main phase anyway, so again a sacrificial spell. And that means we can go for the Primordial next turn and get the Backlash, which will tap this, and that means that we can swing over here and get the copy of the Cypher spell again. Maybe make a copy of Chasm Skulker or something, try and get some protection from a board wipe, or a bit of insurance against a board wipe. Twitching Doll. Here's a Mana Dork. What spell do we want to tutor for with Vampiric Tutor? A Cyclonic Rift bounces the Planeswalker back. Do we care? I don't know if we do. I don't think we can overload Cyclonic Rift from the graveyard with the Primordial. He recasts this next turn and can destroy an artifact. I don't think we care about that either. Yeah, I'm going to counter because it gives us decent devotion with the Volition Reigns as well. Plus we'll draw a card here. Not the best counter, but give our opponents half a chance. They've only got 2 cards in hand each, so we need to start trying to wind the game down here. Might as well scry with the mana. And extra planar lens. I don't think we care about now, because we've got plenty of mana. I think it's just greedy to take that at this point. Yeah, let's try and look for something more decent, like some more card draw or something. Could have taken it, I suppose, because we do have card draw on board. Draw a card with Owaka, speaking of. So that is the second spell drawn this turn, which means Fairy Mastermind draws us a card, so Extra play on our lands, maybe should have kept it on top. Although if we're going to keep drawing into lands, maybe not. I don't think we tap mana into Nykthos to draw more with the Mastermind, whilst our opponents have very few cards in hand. The emblem's going to make it tricky for them enough as it is. They get Proliferate with their own Evo Sage. They are valiantly playing it out though, which is admirable. I'm half tempted to go for Warp World myself and just see what happens. We have a lot of permanents in play. That's just asking to break the client though. Don't think we want to bounce anything with Otawara either. The other player that we just countered draws a couple of cards for his Cyclonic Rift. We will draw one. And because we had that player draw 2 cards, that is the second card they've drawn of course, so Fairy Mastermind. And more counters on the Chasm Skulker. So we draw a card to the Signet and to the Fairy. Sword of the Animist isn't terrible, although it's not the best at this point. Even more mana. Yeah, so I don't feel too bad about getting rid of that lens. Pongify isn't bad either. So let's go for the island and do some more Proliferate stuff. It's a shame we can't get multiple emblems with all this stuff because it's not very often that you can abuse emblems with Planeswalkers. But this is equal to forests we control, which is 0. And we're not really in a position to overrun anyway. Might as well Sol Ring. And I think commander damage is going to start being relevant, so let's go for the Diluvian Primordial, add a bit of blue mana to the table. Do need to remember to add some of this red mana to it so that we can discover. That gets us into a Mind's Dilation. Don't think we could have been much luckier this game. That's why you want to put a lot of mana into your Discover though. I didn't even scry beforehand like I maybe should have done. And then the Primordial, we get a Vamp Tutor before the draw. And Backlash in order to tap down the Duskmantle Seer. So let's get that flying blocker out of the way. And we'll cast the Vamp Tutor, which will still lose us a couple of life. I think we are successfully playing our opponent's cards here. Agent of Treachery is going to be more card draw for us, so I think we're going to be fine with that, to be honest. Although Expropriate, are we going to gain that many extra turns with that? I don't think so. Probably just best taking the card draw. And then we can even make copies of Agent of Treachery with the Stolen Identity. So let's tick up. We obviously know what's on top of the library because we just put it there. So scry it on top and draw into it. Let's tap down this Nykthos for blue. Nets us 14 blue mana. Play the Agent of Treachery. That comes in and annoyingly steals more stuff. Let's take the Chasm Skulker. Play and equip Sword of the Animist to our commander. We know our opponents aren't going to do anything to us this turn because their mana's clunky and it'll get countered anyway. Tick up this Nissa to make another token. And then scry with the Rivendell. We've got 3 mana floating. Might as well use it here before I draw another card to the Jace. I think countering and stealing that Jace was definitely well worth doing. Tempted by the Auric. We could actually take that Frog Lizard so it can't block. Put the island on the bottom. Yeah, let's keep that on top. And then scry to the top and draw into it. And we can take that commander back as well, which he was eager to keep hold of previously. Did just draw a card, so the Chasm Skulker will continue to get bigger. And now we've got 4 mana held up for some interaction as well, so it panned out perfectly. Take the Frog Lizard and the commander. Tempted by the Auric is another one that you don't see enough of, but this just takes them permanently. It's only small permanents that you can take, but for 4 mana I think it's really, really good. Anyway, we've dilly-dallied enough here for this turn, so let's swing in with a bunch of stuff to the left. Try and end that opponent's misery as quickly as we can. Actually, the Fairy doesn't need to go in over there. 10, 16, 21, and yeah, we've got 23 exactly there. Sword of the Animist ramps us, and it will shuffle the library as well, so we might start seeing the same cards on top again. And we're proliferating again, apologies. Didn't account for that, otherwise I wouldn't necessarily have had to have taken so many creatures into the left here. We're finally out of counterspells though, so it might be that there's a board wipe over here that will actually land. Although if it's a one-sided board wipe, we can actually trade creatures with him and have him blow up his own creatures. But then he'd be able to hit us with a bunch of stuff, so I doubt that'd pan out too well. And that player just valiantly takes it. We do get a copy with the Cypher effect as well, so I'm still going to go after the Agent of Treachery. Yeah, and our opponent decides to scoop there, that's fair enough. He doesn't know how much longer the turn's going to go on for, in all fairness. The Agent of Treachery would have drawn us into 3 lands, and then another land, Royal Elemental and Rush of Knowledge, We were actually getting quite low on cards in the library there at 44. Rush of Knowledge would have drawn us quite a few as well. But I think that deck went about as well as we could have hoped for it to go. We didn't draw any cards really off the Wan Shi Tong, but I suppose that depends on your opponents or your meta. Depends on the group that you end up playing with. But either way, it's a 2-mana Flying Vigilance with Flash that you can get down at the end of an opponent's turn, and then it will get buffed up as we saw in this game and start threatening commander damage. All kinds of directions you can go with it, maybe a Voltron list of some kind. But this Theft deck ran very, very well for us this time, so if you want to see it again, as ever, be sure to let me know in the comment section. Massive thank you to the patrons for their support of the channel. I'm TribalKai. Thank you for watching.